Peace's hands trembled as she stared at the picture on her phone. Her husband Ryan, half naked, lying beside Betty, the friend she had once called her sister. The dim glow of the bedroom lights in the photo, the way Ryan's arm was draped over Betty's waist, and the satisfied smirk on Betty's face made Peace feel like she was suffocating. She gripped the phone tighter, her breath shallow. Her heart pounded violently in her chest, her mind unable to process the betrayal staring back at her. "I told you, Peace," Betty's voice rang in her ears, her tone dripping with mockery. "He's mine now." Peace looked up at Betty, who stood in her living room, arms crossed, confidence radiating from her like a queen who had won a battle. You did this to me?" Peace's voice broke. Betty tilted her head. "Oh, darling, don't look so surprised. You thought you could have it all? A rich, handsome husband while I sat and watched? That's not how life works." Tears swelled in Peace's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not in front of Betty, not in front of the woman who had shattered her world. But how did it get to this? Before betrayal, there was friendship. Peace and Betty had been inseparable, two beautiful women navigating the luxurious world of Orlando City. They had everything: wealth, beauty, and connection to the richest and most powerful people. Peace was admired for her elegance and ambition. She had built her own fashion empire from the ground up, and her hard work had earned her respect. She carried herself with grace, never one to seek unnecessary attention. Betty, on the other hand, thrived on admiration. She loved the spotlight, the endless compliments, the VIP parties. She never worked a day in her life, always chasing the next rich man who could fund her extravagant lifestyle. "Peace, you work too hard," Betty often said. "What's the point of being rich if you don't enjoy it?" Peace would laugh. "I enjoy it my own way, Betty. I love building something of my own." Betty never understood. She believed a woman's greatest success was securing a rich man. And then, one evening of an elite rooftop party, their lives changed forever. The party was grand, golden chandeliers hanging above, expensive champagne flowing, and the city skyline glittering in the background. That's where Peace met Ryan. He was tall, handsome, and carried himself like a man who won the world. His presence commanded attention. Ryan walked past all other women and went straight to Peace. "I've been watching you," he said, his deep voice smooth like silk. "You're different from the rest." Peace felt her cheeks warm. "And what makes you think that?" "I'm not trying to impress anyone. You already know your worth." Betty, standing nearby, sipped a cocktail with narrowed eyes. Why her? She thought bitterly. Ryan was persistent. He sent flowers, planned private yacht dates, and took Peace to the most exclusive places. Slowly, Peace let down her guard. She had always been focused on her career, but Ryan made her feel cherished in a way she never had been. Betty watched from the sidelines, her jealousy growing with every passing day. And when Ryan finally proposed with a diamond ring that sparkled like the stars, Betty forced a smile. "Congratulations, bestie," she said, hugging Peace tightly. But in her heart, she seethed. This should have been me. After the wedding, things started to shift. Betty became a frequent visitor in Peace's home. She would show up unannounced, making herself comfortable like she belonged there. Ryan found it strange. "Does Betty always do this?" he asked one evening after she left. Peace laughed. "She's just lonely. She'll find someone soon." Betty wasn't looking for someone else. She was looking at Ryan. She started texting him, at first pretending it was for advice. "Hey Ryan, I need your help with something. Mind if we meet for coffee?" Ryan, being polite, responded, but soon the text became flirtatious. "You're really handsome. You know that? Peace is so lucky. I bet women throw themselves at you all the time. If I were her, I'd never let you out of my sight." Ryan ignored the comments at first. He loved Peace, but Betty wasn't one to be ignored. One evening, Peace came home early and found Betty sitting too close to Ryan on the couch, laughing at something he said, her hand resting on his arm. Peace frowned. "What's going on?" Betty flipped her hair. "Relax, girl. We are just talking." Ryan shifted. He knew this wasn't just talking. That night, Peace felt uneasy. Something in Betty's eyes told her that she wasn't just a friend anymore. She was competition. Ryan tried to resist. He really did. But Betty was relentless. She played her game well, showing up in tight dresses, accidentally brushing against him, whispering things in his ear when Peace wasn't looking. Then one night, Betty invited him for drinks at a luxury hotel bar. "I just need someone to talk to," she had said. Ryan knew he shouldn't go, but something in Betty's eyes lured him. One drink turned into 3. Betty laughed, touching his hand every time she spoke. The air between them thickened with tension. "Ryan," she whispered, leaning in close. "Haven't you ever wondered what it will be like?" tried to pull away, but she pressed her lips against his. And that was the beginning of his downfall. The next morning, Ryan woke up in a hotel bed with Betty beside him, her body wrapped in silk sheets. He stretched, smiling lazily, then reached for her phone. Click! Ryan's eyes widened. What are you doing? Betty smirked, holding up the picture of them in bed. Relax, darling, she said. This is just for insurance. Ryan swallowed hard. He had made the biggest mistake of his life, and now Betty had him exactly where she wanted him. Ryan sat in his car outside their mansion, gripping the steering wheel. His mind raced. He had made a terrible mistake. He could still feel Betty's scent on him, her whispers echoing in his head. This is just for insurance. He knew exactly what that meant. Blackmail. When he finally walked into the house, Peace was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, watching TV. She turned to him smiling. Hey love, you are home late. Ryan forced a smile. Yeah, business ran late. Peace patted the seat beside her. Come sit, let's watch something together. Ryan hesitated. He had just been with another woman, her best friend. Guilt crawled up his spine, but he sat beside her anyway. As Peace leaned her head on his shoulder, he felt like the worst man alive. But what could he do now? Betty had a proof. If Peace ever saw the picture, everything would fall apart. The next morning, Ryan's phone buzzed, and it was Betty. Morning, love. Same time tonight. Ryan clenched his jaw. He couldn't keep doing this. Ryan replied, Betty, this has to stop. Betty, oh Ryan, it only stopped when I say so. Unless, of course, you want Peace to see this. She sent the picture again. Ryan cursed under his breath. He was trapped. Later that evening, Betty showed up at Peace's house unannounced, as she always did. Bestie, she beamed, hugging Peace tightly. I missed you. Peace laughed. You're always welcome, you know that. But Ryan could barely look at her. He knew what she was doing, acting innocent while holding him hostage in secret, and it was working. Betty made sure to sit next to Ryan, subtly brushing her fingers against his. He flinched, but Peace didn't notice. She was too busy believing Betty was still her best friend. Ryan started coming home late. Peace noticed the change immediately. Ryan, are you okay? She asked one night when he stumbled in past midnight. Just work, he muttered, avoiding her gaze. But Peace wasn't a fool. She had seen this before. Men acting distant, making excuses. She just never thought it would happen in a marriage. Betty, on the other hand, was glowing. She started buying expensive gifts, new designer bags, gold jewelry, perfumes, and smelled like wealth. Who is spoiling you? Peace teased one day. Betty smirked. Just someone who adores me. Peace thought she was talking about her new man. She had no idea it was her own husband. Peace started noticing more things. Ryan was barely touching her anymore. He avoided eye contact, always seemed distracted. Then one afternoon, she overheard a phone conversation. Ryan was in his office, door slightly open. Betty, I told you I can't keep doing this, he hissed. Peace is starting to notice. Peace's blood ran cold. She backed away slowly, her breath shaky. She didn't want to believe it. She couldn't believe it. But deep down, she knew something was going on between her husband and Betty. And she was about to find out the truth. Peace sat in silence that night, watching Ryan as he slept. Her heart ached. She had built her life with this man. She had trusted him. And Betty, the woman she had loved like her sister. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she wiped them away. She wouldn't cry. Not yet. The next day, she followed Ryan. She had never done this before, but she had to know. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as she watched him enter a high-end hotel. A few minutes later, Betty arrived. Peace's stomach dropped. She watched them enter together, laughing like a real couple. The betrayal hit her like a slap. She had a proof. Now she had to decide what to do with it. Peace sat in a car outside the hotel, gripping the steering wheel so tightly, her knuckles turned white. She had seen enough. Her best friend, her husband, together laughing like she never existed. Her mind screamed for her to march inside, to slap Betty across the face and demand answers from Ryan, but instead, she took a deep breath. No, she wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her broken. She needed a plan. By the time she drove home, she had already decided. She would act like nothing had changed. She would gather every piece of evidence, and when the time was right, she would destroy them both. Betty was getting more confident. She started visiting Peace's house even more frequently, making herself comfortable on the couch, laughing with Ryan like nothing was wrong. One afternoon, she arrived and announced again. Peace, where is Ryan? Betty asked casually, pouring herself a glass of wine. Peace forced a smile. At work, I suppose. Betty smirked. You suppose? You mean you don't know? Peace's stomach tightened. Betty was testing her, pushing to see if she suspected anything. But Peace didn't flinch. I trust my husband, she said smoothly. Betty laughed, swallowing the wine in her glass. Of course you do. Peace excused herself, locking herself in the bedroom. She needed to breathe. Betty was getting too comfortable, and that meant she was getting careless. Peace started setting traps. She placed a tiny recorder under the living room table before Betty's next visit. She left Ryan's phone unlocked and took pictures of the text between him and Betty. Every piece of proof she kept hidden. Then one evening, she looked Ryan in the eye and said, I want us to go on a vacation, just the two of us. Ryan hesitated. Now? Yes, let's reconnect. Betty was furious when she heard the news. What do you mean you're going on a vacation? She texted Ryan. Ryan replied, I need to. Peace is getting suspicious. Betty, if you leave, I'll show her the picture myself. Ryan stared at the message, sweat forming on his forehead. Betty wasn't just his mistress, she was a ticking time bomb. The night before the trip, Betty showed up at Peace's house. This time, she wasn't pretending to be friendly. She barged in, tossed her phone on the table, and crossed her arms. Peace, I think you should see this. Peace picked up the phone, pretending not to know what was coming. And there it was. A picture of Betty and Ryan in bed together. Betty smiled smugly. Your husband and I have been together for months, and I'm done hiding it. Ryan walked in at that moment and froze. Peace stared at the image, her heart pounding. Then to everyone's surprise, she laughed. Betty, you really think I didn't know? Betty's face dropped. Peace stood up slowly, walked over to her and leaned in. You've been sloppy, my dear, and I've been watching. She turned to Ryan. And you're even more pathetic than I thought. Ryan swallowed hard. Peace raised her hand. Save it. Betty didn't like closing. She had planned for Peace to break down, to cry, to beg, but Peace was standing tall, looking like a queen. So what now? Betty scoffed. Are you leaving him? Peace smirked. Oh, Betty, you're so desperate. You don't even realize what you've done? She pulled out her phone and played an audio recording. Betty's own voice echoed through the room. Ryan, you either keep meeting me or I'll tell Peace everything. I have proof. She'll never forgive you. Betty's face drained of color. That's not, she stammered. Peace tilted her head. Oh, but it is. She turned to Ryan. This is the woman you betrayed me for. A woman who had to blackmail you to stay with her. Ryan had no words. Peace took a deep breath and stepped back. Betty, you want him? Take him. She turned and walked toward the door, but before she left, she looked over her shoulder. And good luck, Betty, because we both know you'll never be able to take care of him the way I did. With that, she was gone. And the house once filled with lights now felt painfully empty. Betty stood frozen in Peace's living room, gripping her phone as if it could save her. She had won, hadn't she? Peace was gone, Ryan was hers now. But when she turned to Ryan expecting victory, she saw something else, pure regret. You should have kept quiet, Ryan muttered, running a hand through his hair. Betty narrowed her eyes. Excuse me? You ruined everything. He stepped away from her. I was handling things. Now Peace is gone and I have nothing. Betty scoffed. Nothing. You have me. Ryan let out a bitter laugh. And what exactly do you bring? You're not Peace. You don't even know how to boil water. Betty's face twisted with rage. You cheated on your wife with me and now I'm not enough? Ryan shook his head. I made a mistake. For the first time, Betty realized something terrifying. She hadn't won. She had just destroyed everything. Meanwhile, Peace wasn't sitting at home crying. She packed her bags and moved into a luxurious penthouse in the heart of Orlando City. It was hers, paid for with her own hard work. She refused to let her man's betrayal define her. But the city buzzed with gossip. Did you hear Peace left Ryan? Betty stole her man. Betty's so lucky. Ryan is rich. Lucky? Please, Ryan's already regretting it. Peace ignored it all. One evening, she sat on a balcony sipping wine as the sun set. Her phone buzzed. Ryan. She smirked and ignored it. Let him suffer. Ryan and Betty's relationship crumbled within weeks. Ryan no longer looked at Betty with desire. He barely came home, and when he did, he was cold and distant. Betty tried everything. New dresses, romantic dinners, and even surprise vacation. Nothing worked. One night, she finally snapped. What is your problem, Ryan? She yelled. Ryan looked up from his phone board. You're annoying. Betty gasped. Excuse me? You had me. All you do is talk, spend money, and demand attention. I miss Peace. The words cut deeper than Betty expected. She had fought so hard to have Ryan, and now he was tossing her like garbage. Ryan showed up at Peace's door one evening, looking exhausted. Peace, can we talk? She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Why? I made a mistake, he admitted. I miss you. I miss hers. Peace raised an eyebrow. What about Betty? Ryan sighed. She's not you. Peace smiled. I know. For a moment, Ryan's eyes lit up, thinking she would take him back. But then she stepped aside, revealing a tall, handsome man behind her, holding 2 glasses of wine. Peace, who is this? Ryan's voice shook. Peace smirked. My new man. You didn't expect me to sit around waiting, did you? Ryan's heart sank. For the first time, he truly understood what he had lost. And Peace, she was finally free. Betty sat in her empty apartment, scrolling through her phone, desperate for a distraction, but all she saw were pictures of Peace glowing happy, living her best life. Meanwhile, Ryan had disappeared. He wanted nothing to do with her. Betty had won the battle, but she had lost the war. Peace, on the other hand, had no regrets. She had loved, she had lost, and she had risen stronger than ever. As she walked down the street of Orlando City, head held high, people whispered her name, not as a woman scorned, but as a woman who had survived. And that, she realized, was the greatest victory of all. In today's world, many relationships fail not because of lack of love, but because of disloyalty, selfishness, and the constant search for something better. Some people believe the grass is greener on the other side, only to realize too late that they destroyed something real for temporary pleasure. This story teaches that betrayal may feel like a victory in the moment, but in the end, true character determines who truly wins. Greed, jealousy, and deception only lead to emptiness, while self-respect, patience, and dignity pave the way for a brighter future. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Stay tuned for more exciting tales coming your way. See you in the next one, besties.